Hello, everybody, and this is Stacy Johnson, SF Johnson Consulting and Construction Services. And in this video, we're going to review the full scooters plumbing set to complete a full takeoff and give the student a good idea of what we look at when we review a plumbing set and what we need to look at when we produce the estimate. Plumbing is kind of difficult in its own because unless you have a good cost book that incorporates all of the connectors and the angles and the T's, doing the takeoff can be very difficult. But because we use a very good cost book that incorporates all of that, we can make measurements and use assembly prices and win a lot. And that is always our goal, to help our client produce very detailed, bare bones estimates that can compete and can win. So, first sheet we're going to look at here, they give us the plumbing specifications. And so it's just going to be some information taken out of the full specs to give the plumber an idea of the domestic water pipe fittings, the sizes for the sewer pipe, water pipe, vent and waste, water heaters, just to give some information that you would also find in the specifications. So it's important to review the specifications always prior to looking at the construction documents and taking the measurements. Right, so those are the specs, and we always want to be familiar with plumbing symbols. Okay, so they give us quite a few symbols, but if we do this a lot, we're going to pretty much know what all the symbols are. Abbreviations, in the event you see something you don't recognize. Floor cleanouts, wall cleanouts, sanitary sewer, all of the stuff that you would find in the plumbing set, and how they designate the different pipe runs: cold water, hot water, waste, vent, grease waste, condensate drain, gas pipe, roof drain, and any existing pipe. Okay, and so what is a set of plumbing plans? Well, the plumbing contractor is responsible for building the system that moves liquids and gases. And so the plumbing plan is full of all of the equipment that it's connected to, all the pipes that connect each one, all of the controls for the system. And what our job is to make sure that we account for everything we need to account for in terms of measuring the pipe runs correctly. If it's new construction, we have to make sure we include the rough end for that particular piece of plumbing equipment. That is always an additional cost to install the plumbing fixture for the very first time. So it's only when in new construction, or if you have an addition where it's a new toilet put in, you never forget the rough end cost, because again, that could be very expensive depending on the equipment. So it can go anywhere from $100 and something bucks to, for a shower, it could be $1,200, $1,500. So you never want to forget the rough end cost, in addition to the plumbing fixture cost, and then all of the cost to run the pipe, and then the cost for insulation on different types of pipes if it is asked for, and then the cost to test the system. So all of those would be incorporated into your plumbing costs. So now, what's most important is when you talk about the plumbing fixture, when we talk about any plumbing fixture, we want to talk about or reference or make sure we know the size of the cold water pipe connection, the size of the hot water pipe connection, the size of the waste water pipe connection, and the size of the vent pipe connection. And so when we buy our equipment too, we have to keep those things in mind as well. And so in every set of plumbing plans, you will definitely receive all of the schedule of the plumbing equipment. So a LAV, That is the technical term, always for the sink in the bathroom. So when we see lav 1, lav 2, we always automatically know it's a sink, but it's in the bathroom only. So you'll never see the tag lav for a kitchen or any place else other than a bathroom. So the lav is the sink strictly for the bathroom. So if we here have a restaurant, which this is a coffee shop, we'll have a sink, hand sink, whatever sink. Those would be, and we know that those are uh, in the, not in the bathroom. So water closet, technical term for the toilet, right? So we always see those old timey terms in the plumbing set. So we have a floor sink, we have a floor drain, we have a trap primer. These are all pieces of the or items included in the plumbing equipment. The grease interceptor, sample port, trap seal, wall clean out, floor clean out, and it gives you, again, you always want to know the size of the water, cold water, hot water, waste, and vent if it applies. So for a floor drain, the cold water, hot water doesn't apply because it's a drain. But we do need to know the size of the waste pipe connected to it and the vent pipe. And then, of course, it's going to give you the manufacturer of all of the equipment where they prefer you purchase. And, you know, sometimes they'll have a national supplier depending on the size of the franchise. And it'll always tell you something down here if there's a national supplier. But with the regular, you know, typical plumbing supplies, it's nothing that special where you would need like a specialty distributor for toilets and sinks, right? So it tells you too, because we have not only the toilets and sinks, we also have the equipment in the kitchen. And we need to know the sizes of those cold water, hot water, waste. And there would not be a vent for the kitchen equipment. So the ice maker, coffee maker, and this indicates that they're directly connected to the, to a water source. Okay, so it's all the equipment. So the MEPs, or the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing sets, are really solely based on equipment, the specifications of the equipment, and how the equipment is supposed to perform. And so you'll get a lot of technical information for all of your plumbing set, your electrical set, and for your HVAC set. Okay, plumbing details, yes. So they're going to show you TYP is typical, right? The term typical means we perform, or we do one operation the same way every time. So this is a typical inline circulating detail, the circulating pump. This is how it is supposed to be connected, and it gives the plumber the detail for all of the plumbing specialties, is what's this called. These are special ways that plumbing pipes are connected. So these are referred to as the plumbing specialties, and it's giving the plumber the exact elevation view, pretty much, on how it should be positioned. Okay, so it's important for the plumber to look through all of that. All right, so in a plumbing set, we have two, just like the electrical set, we have two plans. One plan is what I call the dirty water plan, or the sanitary system. And then the other plan is for the clean water, domestic water system. And if there are any gas lines that run, those are also shown on your water plan. And if it's a lot of different gas and different pipes of that nature, then it'll have a third plan, possibly, where it's just all of the gases, like a dentist's office may have a separate plan for all of the things that run to the dentist chair and all of that stuff. So two plans, typically sanitary and then the clean water. So I always refer to the clean water plan, dirty water plan. Now, all of the pipes, of course, run to the same equipment. And so what's the plan? Plan view is going to show you all the equipment. 3-inch floor sink right here. Okay, ice bins right there. Okay, so the sanitary system is going to show you where all of the sanitary pipes are connected to the sinks, the toilet, the grease waste. Okay, and so our job as estimators for the plumbing plan is to, first of all, always make sure your plans are to scale, right? Because we want to make sure our measurements are correct. So what this states is that for every 3/8 of an inch I measure, it's really 1 foot. So I'm going to make sure I have it to scale. 3/8 equals 1. I agree. And typically you want to go ahead and see if you have a measured, a standard measure that's stated on here, and measure it. And if it is 4 feet 6 inches, you know your plans are to scale. And how you read this from hash mark to hash mark, the number in the middle is the actual length. And so we'll get our dimension tool and put it in. Where you put it is that where the hash mark and the line meet. So somewhere like there to here where the hash mark and the line meet. Yep, 4 6. That way you know your plans are to scale. And so when you're making your measurements, you know they are correct. Okay, and so this is a highly dimensioned set of construction documents, meaning it has a lot of dimensions already on it. So if you didn't have a tool, you can use the dimensions to measure. How we do that is anytime you have two lines that are parallel, meaning next to each other and will never cross. If you have the distance of one, say for instance, the distance from this floor drain to here is pretty much the same. So the distance from the floor drain to here, floor drain to here, is pretty much, or it's parallel to this segment of line, which is 4 feet 6 inches. And so because these are two parallel segments, this one here giving us the measurement, this one here showing us the distance from this floor drain to this connection right here, I can assume that these two measurements are the same length. And so this, basically the length of this pipe is 4 feet 6 inches. Okay, so they give you a lot of measurements on there, so you can use that for that purpose. And so our job would be to just, now, one of the tricks of the trade I like to do for the plumbing, equipment, is not to count the equipment from the plan, just to measure the pipe lengths from the plan. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a 3-inch sewer. Okay, and so I say okay, and then I just follow the line because it's to scale. So it's going to be actual length. So I can go in and put a 45-degree angle, 45 if I want it, but I'm going to use good assembly pricing, so it would include all angles and all of that. All right, so that's the 3-inch, and I'm going to stop that because we have the 2-inch. Now, this is a solid line, so that is a pipe, where the broken line, I already know it is a vent, because for my symbols, broken lines are always the vent for the pipe for plumbing. Now, if you have a broken line on your plan from any others, maybe for the floor plan, you have the broken line, that chances are that means it's underground something. If you have a broken line on an electrical set plan, then that typically means it's underground conduit. But if you have a broken line like this on a plumbing plan, that is typical to how they represent the vent line. Okay, and so I have this kind of covered up, but we see here that it's a 2-inch vent, so I'm going to go ahead and say 2-inch V. The least amount of typing, the better, because we do this for a living, so we know what we're talking about. And we know it's plumbing, so we know it's a vent pipe. Okay, and then it looks like this one too is also vent, where it looks like it's teeing up here. And then we'll just right there, and then here. Okay, so, and then here. So over time, you're going to mark off all of your stuff. And you'll have all your length. So for my 3-inch sewer that I did measure, let's light that up. This is 6.5 feet. So for my 2-inch vent that I've added up is 30.8 or 31 feet so far. Okay, so the plan view is going to give you the uh, horizontal measure of pipe, the horizontal measures when you measure that. But you have to know the distance vertically, right? Up and down. Because the water pipes go up and down through the walls and through the ceiling, whatever. Sewer pipe goes below ground and then up into the building. And so what you have in every plumbing set is the riser diagram, or they call it the isometric view or whatever. And so what this does is kind of trippy, right? It shows you this is to represent up and down or vertical measure of the pipe. And so you can use this to do your takeoff. And what I typically do, or how I explain this, you see these runs are the horizontal measure, the same thing you see on the plan. So you don't count that. The one thing we're looking at are all of the vertical measures. Here, here, here. So when we do the takeoff, we can say that we have the 2-inch, and this is a vent pipe. So basically the vent pipe goes from above the ceiling, because if this is the hand sink, this is the ceiling. So it goes above the ceiling and down to the hand sink. So I have to account for that measure of vent pipe to the hand sink. And so the purpose of the riser diagram is to show you the vertical measures of pipe, and it'll give you the size. Okay, so this is vent to roof. There's always a vent to roof for all your plumbing systems, so it tells you the size of the vent to roof. Okay, and so what I typically do when I get the riser diagram, in terms of takeoff, every time I see it go up, I'll give it 10 feet per story, right? 10 feet uh, per story of building. So if it's only one, commercial buildings are typically 10 feet in height, unless, it's an auditorium or something, but typically a office building or even a restaurant inside is 10, 12, no more than 10, 12, 16 feet. Look at the section view. That'll tell you exactly what it is. So I give each one of these runs 10 feet up to account for the takeoff for that. So now, when I was at the sanitary plan, I said I usually don't use the plan to count the fixtures because you can get a little confused if it's not a good plan. But where you can count fixtures is just from any one of your isometric or any one of your riser diagrams. Because the riser diagram represents the whole plumbing system, which means it's going to show every piece of plumbing equipment, and you can count from here. And you can be very accurate. Nothing's going to get in your way. 3-inch floor sink 1, 3-inch floor drain 1. Everything is really clear here. And so you can see it better here than trying to do it here. Once you've already put all the measurements on, everything like that. So I would always recommend doing your fixture counts from your isometric. And again, this is what we call the riser diagram. It shows the whole plumbing system. These runs you see here, they reflect on the plan. These are the horizontal runs that reflect on the plan. But the isometric or the riser diagram is strictly used for the vertical measures. So when you're doing your takeoff, you can account for the up and down for the pipe. There's a way to show you on the plan too, but it's so much easier to do it this way. And so what I would typically do is say I do a counting tool, 2-inch vent, click, click, click. So I know 3 times 10, that's 30 feet of 2-inch vent pipe, and do it for everything. And now the roughing cost we were talking about is the cost to connect your fixture for the very first time in new construction. And so this little box right here kind of represents that roughing cost. Okay. So when you see that, say, oh, a rough end for a 3-inch sink, and it only applies to the very first time in construction. Okay, this is the sanitary riser. So the riser for, remember, you have two systems. You have the sanitary system, and you have the clean water, gas, or air on the other system. So yeah, you have riser diagrams for both of the plans or both of the systems. Okay, so here's the next plan. And again, now you have, these are water pipe of 1/2 inch. So keep in mind that our water systems are usually copper, all the copper pipes. Water systems are copper pipes. And in most cases, your sewer system, that's a PVC, but some states require it be cast iron, especially in commercial or, commercial buildings. So it's really for you to look in the specifications to determine what uh, pipe you use for water, sewer, and then if there's gas, it's typically black steel, okay? Or again, it'll be very clear in the specifications what type of pipe to use for each of the plumbing systems. So this is the domestic water system, same fixtures, right? So we don't count the fixtures twice. It's just two different water piping systems going to the same piece of equipment. And so this also has the riser diagram. Now, instead of the sewer pipe, we're talking about the copper water pipe that goes to each of the pieces of equipment. Now, your riser is going to be different because there's some things that the sewer pipe goes to that the water pipe doesn't go to, like floor drains. There may be a floor drain where it's not, there's no need to run water to it. And so you won't see it, but then we have to read the notes, make sure we understand what's what. Okay, so riser diagram for your water system. Same thing applies. And if it's a lav, right, a sink, you're going to have hot water, cold water coming down to the sink. Okay, so, and keep in mind that, you'll have again some things on your water riser or your domestic water riser that you won't have on your sewer, like the water heater. Okay, so recirculating pump, that won't be on your sewer plan. So it's really important to pay attention to detail and when it comes to all of your plumbing equipment, so you don't leave anything out. Okay, so that is the water plan, two plans for a plumbing system. Sanitary, okay, which this one includes the riser diagram, which is really cool because it makes estimating easy as far as determining all of your pipe runs. And then the water system, running to the same equipment, a riser diagram to say which of the pipes go up and down to the equipment. Okay, and that's pretty much a full overview of a plumbing plan. Right, we have the notes from the specs. We have all of the information about the plumbing equipment. We need to know the sizes of the pipe, what the equipment is. It's a kitchen, so it's going to have even extra equipment. Need to know the sizes of the cold water, hot water, waste, vent, going to all the equipment if it applies. And then we have two plans. We have the sanitary plan to tell us what all of the sanitary pipe and the sizes, and we just measure. And then we look at the riser diagram to get the vertical measures, where the plan is all of the horizontal measures of pipe. Two systems, so we have to do it twice. And then we have pretty much, by the time we add up all the pipe runs, the cost of the equipment, all of the fixtures, testing it, roughing cost, and you have a pretty good, very good job here. Pretty small, but we're going to finish individually now, do each individual takeoff for each of the sheets, and then put together an awesome plumbing estimate. All right, so if there are any questions, please email me at education@sfjohnsonconsulting.com, and we will see you at the next class on the next review. And thanks a lot for joining me.